Hey, and welcome back to the last video in the Novel Crafter series that I'm doing right now, where we take having no idea and turn it into a completed first draft. So what we're going to do today is actually make that first draft. And I do have Open Router up, so I can show you kind of what the total cost is of this session. This is going to be a longer session because we are going to be having all the pros done for us. So let's jump right in. Of course, these are our scene beats. This is chat. This is where we're going to be writing. So in Novel Crafter, just going to do this, generate prose. For this example, this project, I'm only using GPT-4 Turbo. So keep that in mind. All of these different AIs are available. You know, Mistral's really fun. It's not as good generally as GPT-4 Turbo, but it doesn't have the same kind of constraints that GPT does. So definitely play around with them. Yeah, you've got all kinds of them. So all we're doing is this. We click. Okay, and then that is because it's not grabbing that. So just discard that. Grab here. Remember, we're not editing anything right now, we're just letting it do what it does. We are going to edit when we have it all done and when it goes and we have our first full draft. And if you want to edit within Novel Crafter, that's up to you. If you like to edit it on your own Word document, that's good too. I like to take it out of Novel Crafter and have, I honestly like to have a sheet of paper and a marker, and then as I'm reading I make notes. But that's my system. It's completely up to you how you do your system. So this is all from chapter 1, scene 1. As you can see, it's going to be a lot of words, and it's going to take a little bit. This isn't even the first chapter, and it's already at 872 words. So we're going to grab this. And a lot of it will be repeated, but the idea is just to get it done. And then we can go back in and edit and cut. We're probably going to cut a lot. But, going back to what I said earlier in an earlier video about not being able to edit a blank page, same thing applies. We're just getting words. We're not going to keep most of these. It's not like this is going to create the perfect first draft where we can instantly just turn it into our publisher or send it off to an agent or upload this onto Kindle Unlimited. That's not what this is. This is taking something that we can then edit and make our own. And as you can see, it does take a little bit. So previously, we spent about an hour with, getting all the scene beats, getting the original outline, getting the characters, getting the locations all together. But even if this part takes an hour, you've still got an actual first working draft within 2 hours, which is not bad. So we're just going to let it do its thing. As you can see, chapter 1 is already almost 2,000 words, and we're only on scene 4. Each of our scenes, or each of our chapters again, has 10 scenes, so expect long chapters. But you just let it do its thing. And it's nice too that up here it's going to tell you our total word count, how long it takes to read this, our total page count. And then you can also change it to be just the full act, just a chapter. So if you're looking at, okay, my chapters are typically, say your chapters are 5,000 words, and you want to make sure that your chapters stay about 5,000 words, just so that they're all kind of even. You can take a look at it here, or you can take a look in the plan where it'll also show you the word length, and I'll show you that in a second too once this is done. I find that if I jump between this and another part of Novel Crafter while this is going, it messes with the prose. So this is something where you definitely focus and you keep this going. Okay, so it's almost done with scene 4. Okay, and we're just going to go over here to plan just so I can show you that, see, chapter 1 is 3,000 words. Each scene is about 900 words, except for this one. This one's really small, but that's okay. Same thing. And then once we finish with the first chapter, I'm going to go to Open Router and I'm going to show you how much this chapter actually costs to make as far as the cost for ChatGPT. And again, that's not the Novel Crafter chat cost, because Novel Crafter has its own subscription cost. Open Router is just the actual words that it created. So if you use something like Mistral, or if you don't use the AI at all and just use Novel Crafter for actually just organizing your stories, which it's very good with, then at that point, you would just have the Novel Crafter cost. But because I am using an AI that costs money to generate with, we're going to have a cost with it. But, it's going to be minimal. Right, and we are halfway through that first chapter. And since we have 18 chapters plus the epilogue, as you can see, it will take just a bit. And say you didn't want to do the scene beats, say you just wanted to do the chapter, that's okay too. I like doing the scene beats because then I know that the chapter will have more depth, it will be longer, and there's more for me to cut and more for me to play with, instead of me being like, okay, well, this chapter needs more. I was only, given 800 words. That's not going to cut it for me. But we may end up with a chapter that's 10,000 words. That's a little long, I think, especially in romance, where I like to have my chapters closer to maybe 5,000 words. So expect a lot of this to get cut. And that's when it'll be like, okay, is it the dialogue kind of repeating? Is it the same kind of idea repeating? And if it is, cut it. If it doesn't move the story forward, if it doesn't either move the plot or the characters forward, then just cut it. You're going to end up with a ton of extra words, and that's what's beautiful about this. Yeah, and as you see, like each of these, everything that's a codex entry is underlined. So, you know, it's pulling George, it's pulling Sarah. Okay, here's the next one. And there may be faster ways to do this, there may be easier ways. This is the way that I've found that works for me. But definitely go through and play with Novel Crafter so that you find a way that works best for you. Now, if you're writing a short story and you don't need all the extra words, maybe you probably don't need the scene beats, and that's okay. No, or if you're gonna write the prose, but you wanted the AI to help you plan the book, that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with anything that we're doing. No shame here. Whatever works so that you get your book done and you know, you have fun doing it. Alright. Will be scene 9. And I don't know stuff like this. Like here, it's like, oh, and there was Jack. But up here, she actually talked to Jack. Was way up here somewhere. See? So that's just something to keep in mind as you're doing edits. And that's why it's important to read it through and just take in all those little details where you're like, hey, this doesn't seem right. And then once you've done your first read through, and maybe you even want to do multiple read throughs, but once you do your first read through, you make your big notes, then you can go back through and do your edits. I don't, for me, recommend doing edits as you're doing your first read through because my first read through is going to be my first initial idea of this is what happens in the story, this is the in-depth, because I know kind of what happens. I've seen the outline, I looked at all the scene beats, but at the same time, it's as in-depth as reading. I'm not reading this as it's going in. And maybe your scenes belong in a different chapter too. Maybe you're like, okay, I like all of this, but it needs to be in 2 separate chapters. That's okay. Yeah. This is your first draft. You can hack it up however you want so that it becomes a workable story when you're done. So now that it is done with the first chapter, let's go ahead and take a look and see how much that first chapter costs. So it is the 20th, so we're down here. 3 cents, 3 cents, 3 cents, 4 cents, 1 cent, 4 cent, 3 cent, 4 cent, 4 cent, 3 cent, 3 cent. So as you can see, it's pennies. It's very minimal. Let's go ahead and, yeah, it's third person. It's going to stay third person. I'm not going to pick a specific character because there's times when Jack is going to be alone. There's times when Emily's going to be with her family. It doesn't make sense to stick a specific character for the entire novel. And it's just doing its thing. See, here's all the different things that you can do with that. I think you can have it detect characters, summarize the scene. Another really fun thing that you can do in the plan one actually is you can go through and chat with the scene. Say you're like, hey, this scene needs work. I need to expand the scene. What else can I do with the scene? What are the weaknesses of the scene? You can chat specifically with the scene to find out kind of where it maybe needs help or if it needs to be expanded. But we're not worried about that right now. Ah, there. And since we don't really need this list, you know, if I was writing the prose, I would have this list up just so I can be like, okay, let's, you know, what do I need to know about Jack? How old is he again? What color are his eyes? All of this is in our codex. We don't really need to pour that in right now. We don't need to know it. The AI knows it. So we can go ahead and collapse that, which opens this up a little bit. We can also slide this over, which will make it easier to grab this. So as you can see, we're almost at 10,000 words. We're barely into chapter 2. So it's going to be a bit. This is not a quick one button write my novel for me kind of process. This is a little bit more in depth than that, but the nice thing is that we're going to have a lot here to work with that we can then shape up to be how we want. And say we absolutely hate something, we can discard it, we can retry it. So you're not stuck with anything. If you're like, hey, you went completely off the rails here, go ahead and discard it. Okay, and then Tommy Wilkins is someone who's not in our codex, so he may be someone that we want to add in, especially if we were writing the prose. We're like, hey, we want to make sure that we include their relationship. But that's not something that I'm worried about right now. But just keep in mind that the AI will make people up. And if you want to add them in, go ahead and add a new codex entry. So we're about halfway through with chapter 2. It's been about 20 minutes so far. And as you can see, it's about 45 pages, about an hour to read it. Same thing, we're just plugging in the information. One of my dogs is having a dream. And the nice thing too is that this isn't something that you have to be physically in front of your computer or on your phone to be able to kind of pay attention to. Just come back to it every few minutes. Yeah, that's the nice thing about having the scene beats is that you kind of know where you're at. You know what's going on. And then in a previous video, I did mention that Novel Crafter was not mobile yet. Some people commented. I really appreciate that, and I did make an update video, but I wanted to mention it in this video as well. Novel Crafter is actually mobile. I still prefer it on the desktop and the laptop, but definitely check it out on mobile. It's there, it's easy. So I really appreciate those of you who reached out and corrected me, and yeah, it's great to know that that was the update. Right, so that is halfway through chapter 2. Same thing, generate prose, go up to here to GPT-4 Turbo, and let it do its thing. And here's Mrs. Peterson, another character that we could add to our codex. And like Miller's grocery store, if it's not underlined, it's not in our codex yet. And you can definitely add them. Yeah, and maybe this is something to keep in mind, that right now in the story, according to the AI, it's autumn. So if it starts talking about spring in the next chapter, definitely something to reel in. I plan to do one very long video where it is the entire process put together as one video from start to finish. Looking at how long this is taking to get through, we're not even at 2 chapters yet. Are we done? That was 1 chapter? Or that was 1 scene? Okay. That might be a very, very long video, and that's okay. Since I'm doing something in my workflow every single... Oh, we weren't actually done. Okay. That's interesting. Alright, so we actually have 2 beats going at the same time now. I'm going to go ahead and... Oh. That one seemed like it was done, but it was not done. It just took a little bit. Maybe a little clash there, but that's okay. Are you officially done? Yep, about 900 words, so I think we can officially call that done. Copy that. Doesn't matter if you do paste or paste as plain text, either way it's fine. We're almost to chapter 3. We're at 30 minutes right now, so probably figure each chapter taking about 15 minutes for the AI to do. And it looks like each chapter is going to end up being around 8,000 to 9,000 words on average. Well, if you really love everything that's here, maybe you just want to make them shorter chapters. Instead of 18 chapters in an epilogue, you just, yeah. Maybe you want to make it closer to 35. Maybe it's 36 chapters in an epilogue for you. That's okay. It's your book. You can do whatever you want with it. I'm just showing you the basics so that you can apply it to your own workflow and make writing easier and more fun for yourself. Alright, so that is chapter 2 done. I'm going to take a quick look at Open Router. And again, we're pennies. We're like 4 cents. This one was 5 cents. Alright, here's chapter 3. So what we might do is do the first act as one video, the second act as one video, and then the third act as one video. If we do all of it as one video, it's going to be almost 5 hours long. That's a lot. I'm just figuring each one takes about 15 minutes. So, yeah, even if we break them up, each video is going to be over an hour long. And I don't know about you, but to me that feels like a lot. But if it does end up being about 5 hours, that means in 6 hours you can go from I have no idea, I just know I want to write something, to I have a finished first draft, which is really, really good. And of course, editing will take longer than that. But if you're someone who struggles to get started, if you're someone who struggles to even get going, if you get kind of burnt out halfway through the novel and you don't really know where to go from there, AI can definitely help if you struggle with endings like I do. It can help a lot. And that's what I hope you take away from this, is that, you know, it's going to make your workflow easier. It's going to make writing more fun. You know, maybe you just need it to get started with the first chapter and then you want to take over after that. That's okay. Whatever works for you. You know, maybe it's even like you have a friend who has a great idea for a story, but they don't really know where to go from there. Okay. AI can help build that outline. You know, AI can write that first chapter. And maybe that's the start that they need to make that dream of writing a book come out for them. You know, AI doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's just knowing the little pieces of the program so that it all fits together and it becomes one seamless thing. You know, we started with, I want to write a romance novel. I want it to be a contemporary between two adults. Great. You know, from there it was, what are the common tropes? What's popular right now? Pick two of those to combine them. Okay. Yeah. I need an outline. I need characters. I need a location. We tossed that into the codex. The outline became these scene beats that we have right here. And now we're doing the longest process of them, which is here. I need all the words. So I just checked my calculator, and if each chapter is about 8,000 words, and we kept all the words with the 18 chapters plus the epilogue, we are looking at about 150,000 words, which is a lot. So you likely won't keep all of them. You may keep half of them. But with how cheap they are to generate, I'm okay with, all right, let's just generate a bunch of it and then cut what we don't need. That way I'm not attached to it. I'm not like, oh my god, I spent a week writing this one scene. I can't cut it. I love it so much, because I've done that. You know? And then it comes down to it, and the scene doesn't move the plot forward and it doesn't move the characters forward, but I feel like I can't get rid of it because I spent so long on it. We don't need to be doing that. And if we end up with a book that's 100,000 words as a contemporary romance, that's decent. And most contemporary romances right now are in the 80,000, 60 to 80,000 range generally. A trilogy, maybe 250K total for all the books. So don't feel like you have to keep every little thing that the AI gives you just because you paid for it, or if you're using Mistral just because it was generated. It's not all going to be amazing. It's not all perfect. I need to look up who wrote that, or who said that one quote that really sticks with me. I think it was Neil Gaiman, actually, who said that when he's writing, it's like throwing mud at a wall and seeing what sticks and what he likes. This is very similar to that. It's just you're basically making a whole bunch of words. And then what you like at the end is what you decide to keep. And if you have a faster way to do this, that's fantastic. I like this way. Here's another person that we could add to our codex. Marjorie. It's gonna be cute when we're done with it. And because it's GPT, you know that it's not going to be anything explicit. You know that it's not going to have any massive violence. No one's gonna go become a serial killer in the meantime. It's going to be cute. It's gonna be sweet. It's gonna be romantic. Some of the other AIs that are attached to Open Router do come unfiltered, and that's okay. You write the book that you want to write. Alright, so that looks done. Nope, not done yet. Again, we are on chapter 3 right now. We're halfway through chapter 3 out of, we'll just say 19 chapters because there's an epilogue. We're at over 22,000 words, almost 2 hours of reading. Nope, I did that wrong. So I think that's what we will do, just because 5 hours is a lot to do for one video. Is we will do the first act, the second act as one video, the third act with the epilogue as one video. And it's just doing its thing. They look like they'll be cute together. Oh, she broke up with him with a note. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, I don't love her right now. Is it done? It looks done. So we're gonna go ahead and jump to the next one. Okay, so the lighthouse is an important detail. And we know that we're on a coast. Okay, then this is the last scene for chapter 3. We're already up to 100 pages, over 2 hours of reading, and there were 25,000 words. Alright, so just to take another look. We're still at 5 cents is the max that we've spent for any particular scene beat. So, chapters are pretty cheap. I'm just going to go over here to the plan really quickly. Chapter 1 is 8,000. Okay, yep. They're all right about the same length, so that's nice. I like to have pretty even chapters. I'm going to scroll over just a little bit more. And this is definitely adding stuff in that should have been up there, but we will work it all out in edits. Yeah, that's chapter 4, scene 1. Are you all done? Looks like you are. Did notice that GPT gets a little romantic, a little flowery, but if that's how you write, cool. If not, edit it. And as you can see, it's all saved in Novel Crafter, so we don't have to worry about it. So we have about 2.5 more chapters to do in the first act. It sounds like she really broke his heart. We know that they'll come back from that, but it's a little sad for them. Okay, it looks like this one is done. And we're just going to continue on with the exact same thing that we have been doing. Grab this. I changed my zoom slightly on it. We are almost at 30,000 words. That scene is done. At least it doesn't seem like he's that upset about how she ended things. He was definitely heartbroken at the time, but it's not like he hates her now. I went a little too far up. There we go. This is definitely something that you can be doing during your favorite show, while you're making dinner, playing with your kids, whatever you do, playing with your pups. Especially because it does take a little bit. Alright, the numbers aren't going up anymore, so that scene might be done. Okay. Good. I'm going to show you something a little different this time. So this is having it continue. And of course, we would probably take out that first paragraph about the Mapleton River. We already know that they're at the river. They've been at the river. Done with that. Okay. All of it. Thank you. Okay, 32,000 words, 128 pages. Make it 20 of what we have right now. I'm usually pretty liberal with cutting out big chunks of what it generates. Just because I'd rather have too much than too little. But if you like more of what it has, then that's fine. You keep what you like. Right, are you done at 708 words for this scene? That's okay. Ah. I'm currently on chapter 4. And as you can see too, by limiting that to just chapter 4, it took away everything else. It's still there. It's just hidden. We don't really need to see everything else right now. It's not like we're referencing something that happened in chapter 2 at this point. So let's just continue it. Alright, so this will be the end of chapter 4. Okay, we know it's definitely not done. Just kind of hanging out right there. There we go. It caught up. Sometimes it pauses for just a moment and you're like, what are you doing? But it gets there. All done. All right, and let's have it go to chapter 5. See, and everything else is still there. Chapter 4 is still there. It's still perfect. We're just focusing on another chapter right now. And without having it all there, it helps kind of keep it all neat and tidy and a lot less cluttered. At least in my opinion. I like things a little more tidy than that. That was just being a lot, especially on the sidebar. So you're currently on chapter 5. Of course, there's only 6 chapters in the first act. So we are almost done with this video. Maybe just 15 more minutes. All right. And if you're following along and you're getting ideas of how you want to integrate this into your flow, I'd love to hear about the books that you want to write. Hopefully watching this and watching my process has kind of inspired you to jump into Novel Crafter and see how it can help you. Maybe you're trying to finish your book, maybe you're trying to start a new one, maybe you just want to jump in and see how it can help and what it can do. All of that's totally fine. I definitely appreciate the comments, so anytime you want to reach out, go for it. And if you like these kind of videos, and you like seeing how AI can help your writing process, and if you like writing fiction, feel free to subscribe. I plan to go through and post about novel AI, more on Novel Crafter, more on Poe. There's a lot of good softwares out there. There's a lot that we can play with, a lot that we can learn. Right, we are about halfway done almost with chapter 5. Right. Yeah, we're about the halfway part of 5. So we've got about a chapter and a half left in this video. Once we finish writing the first act, I'm going to show you review, which is this little tab up here. Kind of show you how that helps with our insights. But let's get through the first act first. Yeah, see, this is a good example of what I mean by chat can be really flowery. No. I'm liking what it's doing with continue writing. I'm just going to keep it doing that right now. Yeah, and maybe this description is something that you want to have earlier when they first get to the gazebo. What you may even like to do is have 2 Word documents after you do your official first read through, where you have all your notes, and then you can take parts of the first one and then put it into the second one. So like if you like this description, but you want to hold off on it, just put a comment on it. Grab some other stuff if you just like the dialogue. There's lots of ways to use what Novel Crafter and the AI that you choose to use to make the final book that you create. This is just going to give you a whole bunch of output that you can use in whatever way works for you. This is definitely not what I would say is final, submit to the publisher, put up on Kindle, self-publish kind of thing. This is a very rough... Why do I keep doing that? Don't do that. It's rough, but it's got good parts. It's got a little bit more than good bones, because good bones is the scene beats. Those are the bones for me. It's got a little bit more than that. But it definitely needs work when we're done. And that's okay. I definitely don't think that AI is at the point where you just put in a couple words and then it gives you a nice, solid, cohesive story that makes sense and is actually really readable. And this is okay. There are some good pieces in here. There's some pieces I've really liked, just from the little glimpses that I've read. But it's not something where I'm like, yeah, instantly, it's 6 hours, I'm going to have a book up on Kindle Unlimited. No, we're not doing that. Please don't do that. There's so much work that needs to be done in this book. But for me, having all of this is a lot less intimidating than being like, okay, I want to write a really long contemporary romance about these two people. Yeah. Because at this point, when we're done, start to finish, maybe 6 hours, depending on your workflow and how much you can really focus on it. And then if you spend, say, a week editing, yeah, because I definitely think letting it rest works really well. Like if you do your read through, take your notes, and then leave it for a couple hours. Go do something else. Go take a walk or something. Go hang out with friends. Go get some coffee. Something like that, and then come back to it after you've had some time to think about it. I think that that's a really good thing, just so that you can get some space and let it kind of mellow out in your brain. And then, maybe it takes you a week, but if you can do, from start to finish having something ready to see the publishing world, or to see an agent or a publisher, or to put up as a self-published book within a week, you're doing really well. I mean, at that point, you're making 4 big novels a month. And these aren't little novels. These aren't like a 60K book. If you keep even, half of what this gives you, you're going to end up with probably an 80K book. And I'm pretty sure that you're going to keep more than half. So if you do an 80K book with edits per week, it's not bad. Don't feel like you have to rush it. It's just going to make your process easier. That's the whole thing that I want you to take away from this, is that AI can make your writing process... Why do I keep doing this? No, I want to do this right now. I'm liking this flow right now. AI can make your process easier. It can take the stress, the worry, anything that you've had trouble with. Give it to AI. See what AI can do with it. If you're like, I don't know how to make this character more interesting, tell AI about the character. See what it comes up with. Think of AI as a co-author. Like in the chat section, start a conversation and say, hey, say Jack needed more of a backstory. What could make Jack more interesting? Or, hey, I think Jack needs a secret baby or an ex-girlfriend, some kind of drama like that. Give it to AI, see what AI wants to do. Maybe our next book is going to be a secret baby. Yeah, maybe we decide that, hey, we really like these two characters and we want to make a series with them. And then their next book, his ex shows up with a secret baby, and you're like, oh my god. Maybe it's just a standalone. Maybe we decide to make this a nice, small town series. That's okay. If you fall in love with these characters and you want to make a series out of your own characters, then go for it. If they're still speaking and you're like, I don't want to let them go yet, but I don't know what to do with them, talk to chat. See what chat says for a future book. We could actually do that. After I do this scene, actually, let's ask chat what we could do for a sequel using these two same characters. And I'll show you what I mean. And then once we get that, then we'll do chapter 6. And then from there, that'll be the end of this video. And then the next video will be the next act. And then the third video will be the final act and the epilogue. I'll show you some other fun stuff that we can do with chat too before we do 6. Okay, and then this one is almost done. Alright, so that is the end of chapter 5. Let's go ahead and look at chat really quick. So, in the last video, I asked chat for a synopsis, which it gave, and then also a blurb, and some possible titles. I don't love these, but they're there. Okay. What are the strengths and weaknesses of this novel? It's a very good question to ask, and it's important that we know that, especially when we start editing. So these are the things that the novel really does well. See? And it's good to know the weaknesses. Yeah? We know that it's going to be a well-trod plot. That's okay. We were going for that. These are excellent things to know so that we know what to look out for. And I definitely encourage you, as you're working, to just go through and, check in with your chat and see, okay, where are we going? What can we improve? How can we make this better? Yeah, what could happen in the sequel? Say we fall in love with this book and we're like, oh no, we can't leave them yet. We need more time with them. See? And then if you wanted to go down this rabbit hole right now, you could ask for that outline for the book too. Yeah, you could ask for detailed scene beats. We are not jumping into book 2 right now. I don't even know if there's going to be a book 2 for this one. But I wanted to show you kind of what you can do with chat. Let's get back to finishing our chapter 6 though. So we are currently at 42,000 words. All right. Let's make chapter 6. And then I think that'll be a good time for a break. That'll be almost 2 hours of working with Novel Crafter. So a good time for a break. Now, I hope you enjoyed seeing kind of what you can do and how you can build your book. And all the fun things that you can do. You know, anything that you're wondering about it, talk to chat. You know, if you're like, hey, how can I make Emily's character more interesting? You know, or if you're like, hey, you know what? Chat had a really good point about there's not a lot of conflict. How can I make more conflict? You know, maybe Emily has an ex who shows up and is from her big city life before she came back to her small town. You know, and maybe he's like, no, 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 I can't leave you, and now she has to make a decision. Yeah. Maybe she left her husband and she's here hiding out. Maybe she entered witness protection. We don't know these things. But if you need more conflict, if you feel like your story needs conflict, ask chat. For this book, I'm not doing a lot of conflict. I really wanted this small town, like I've said it before in this series, Hallmarky feel. You know, that kind of Hallmarky Christmas Hallmark movie, the comforting, you know, hot chocolatey vibe. We're going for that. But as you're doing this, your novel, you can use whatever vibe you like. You know, maybe you're doing a detective series. You know, it's definitely going to be a different vibe, and all the more power to you. You make your book how you want. Just don't be afraid to explore with Novel Crafter, with the chat. Just jump right in and see what happens. As you've seen on Open Router, it's not expensive to jump into this. It's not expensive at all. And you can play with it. You know, and especially if you are not using one of the chats that you have to pay for. Like say you're using Mistral. Mistral's fine. On another video, maybe even another video series, but it might just be another video, I'll show you Mistral, because I like Mistral. It's fine. It's not as detailed as chat. It doesn't do... I feel like it goes off the rails a little bit easier, but it's a really good free program that you can use. It's a free chat. So if you're like, hey, I can only afford the Novel Crafter that gets you just the one that has AI, you know, I can't afford extra AI, okay, then just use Mistral. That's totally fine. or any of the other ones that are free. That's okay. Yeah. Use Novel Crafter because it helps you organize things. And when we get done with the scene or chapter 6 in just a few minutes, I'll show you review. The next Novel Crafter series I do, or the next Novel Crafter video that's not related to this small town second chance romance, I'll probably do as more of a novella instead of a novel with Mistral, just because, you know, 5 hours of sitting through a video sounds like a lot. But hopefully you guys think it's interesting. I think it's interesting. I'm excited to get through it and start actually editing it. Interesting. Okay. So we had an error. Let's have it retry. It's not doing anything. Let's go ahead and delete. Okay. We're gonna grab this. See what it does. Hopefully it's not having issues. Doesn't seem like it though. Seems fine. Chapter 64. It's almost done. That means that we're almost done with chapter 6. So that's good. Oh, that was sweet of him. This line right here, that was sweet. I don't know what that's doing. Another random character that we could add to our codex. Okay. Next up. And then there's moments like this where maybe you want to take it into chat and be like, hey, can you expand this with dialogue? Don't show me this. Or don't tell me this, I mean, show me this. You can definitely do that. And chat is useful for so many different things. Okay, that's 7. We are almost done with chapter 6. So we're almost done with the first third of the book. We've gotten a lot done. I know it's been almost 2 hours, but we have gotten a lot done. Absolutely. And hopefully it's been interesting for you. Hopefully you've learned something. And there's some way to make your flow easier, your writing better. And writing is fun. So wherever you're struggling where it's not fun, use AI to help you fill in that gap. And if you don't like marketing, I really don't like marketing. I don't like making blurbs. I don't like making social media posts. AI helps a lot with that. You know, and because it's all within this book and because we all have the one chat, you can go into chat and be like, hey, I need some social media posts for this book. You know, can you help me pitch this to an editor? How would I do that? What kind of tags would I use for this book? What are some good quotes for this book? If I was going to make some TikTok videos, things like that, AI can be a huge help with. So don't be afraid to ask. Right, 2 more scenes and then we are done with this chapter. I have no idea what this is doing here. It's probably when it had that little hiccup, but I don't want to touch it and have it do something else, so I'm not going to worry about it right now. Okay, it's almost done. Pink is someone who is not in our codex, so we could definitely add them. That's the nice thing too, like all the little people who maybe don't influence the plot that much, they're just little mentions of people, they're not going to be in our codex yet. Chat gave us everybody who will actually be influencing the plot. But if you want to add them in, especially if you're making a sequel, definitely add them in. Because maybe they will play a bigger part in the next book. And the nice thing about Novel Crafter is that, you know, you have a sequel, it's going to carry over. It's going to have that same information. So it's not like you'll have to make a whole new codex for the next book. Yeah, as soon as this is done, we're going to take a quick look at that review, and then that'll be the end of this first video. No, not the first video, but the first part of the actual writing of the book. As the rest of it's really been planning stages, and now it's, you know, we're actually jumping into it. Alright. That looks like it's done. That chapter is 9,000 words. So the cool thing about review, we're at 51,552 words right now. This shows us the word breakdown by scene. Our average is 271. Character distribution by scene. Most of our scenes have at least 4. So that is super interesting. You can look at the plan. 8,000, 8,000. We have done up to here so far. Next video, we will start in the middle, going from chapter 7 to chapter 12. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Hopefully it's given you some ideas so that you can take it into your own writing, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.